Malango, San Diego, California. Tyrene King, Columbus, Ohio. I say their names. These are the latest black men and boys slain by police officers. The spirit of tonight seeks to celebrate and awake the activism in all of us. Spike Lee's work pushes us out of our comfort zone and compels us to ask why. The people who represent the offices, the organizations, and the projects that you may hear from tonight identify themselves as concerned citizens who are committed to staying engaged and creating spaces that continue conversations that can usher us toward change. I'm grateful this evening to welcome Mr. Lee to Teachers College for the timely and significant documentary screening, Two Fists Up, We Gonna Be Alright. I'm also grateful to introduce these next two individuals, Dr. Thomas James and Dr. Janice Robinson. These two individuals have been consistently generous and supportive in the work that I do here at Teachers College with the Racial Literacy Roundtable Series and the Civic Participation Project that I work with Lalita Vasudevan and Laura Smith. Provost and Dean Tom James is also a professor of history and education. He strongly supports efforts to advance all peoples at TC and beyond. And he is committed to strengthening diversity practices as the core part of the Teachers College mission. Dr. Janice Robinson, who will bring us remarks from our president, Dr. Susan Furman, is a proud alumna of TC and vice president for diversity and community affairs. She is an associate professor in higher education and TC's Title IX coordinator. Please join me in welcoming these wonderful individuals.
Right. So, here we go. So Spike Lee was born Shelton Jackson Lee on March 20th, 1957 in Atlanta, Georgia. He was an amateur filmmaker by the age of 20 and won a Student Academy Award for his graduate thesis film. Lee grew attention with his first feature, She's Gotta Have It, one of the most profitable films made in 1986. Right. And continues to create films that explore provocative topics like race, politics, and violence. He is also known for his documentaries and commercials. I'm gonna skip to the end because I know he wants to come up. Lee's 2015 film Chirac, an adaptation of Aristophanes' list. Someone tell me. Aristophanes. Said in modern day Chicago was the first feature produced by Amazon Studios. That year, the acclaimed filmmaker also received an honorary Oscar at the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences Annual Governor's Awards. Mr. Lee is also a recipient of the 2010 Teachers College Medal for Distinguished Service. Ladies and gentlemen, the man we're here for, Mr. Spike Lee. And also, if you can look to the screen, to your right, you'll see the hashtag TC2FistsUp. We're going to have a live Twitter feed going right now. If you have questions that you would like answered, please tweet and have that as the hashtag, and we'll do our best to get to your question.
Before we begin our Q&A, and the way that it will work is, I have one question that I would like to ask Spike. Pat has one question he would like to ask Spike, and then we would like to hear his answers to those questions, but also just to hear from him, whatever he would like to reflect on. We hope to have some time to take a few questions from the audience. But before we begin, I would like to invite Brennan DeVos to the podium so that we can commemorate a special life, someone who was dear to Mr. Lee, and for those of us who have watched his movies over the years, dear to us as well. So Brennan.
Yeah. Remember I said he was going to dress like me.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Stephen Reeves, Patrick. I'm so proud of you. All of this. After watching that documentary, I have full emotions. Again, thank you, Black women, man. Everything. So, Dr. Spike Lee. He transcended and revolutionized the Black image in cinema. And in that image, birthed an iconic character, Radio Raheem. And I just want to read a poem by Lemon Anderson. It states, "And then there was Radio Raheem. Flat top, tight fade, built like an '89 New York Giant. The majestic brother you could hear 2 blocks away, in any direction pumping Public Enemy. From the horns of his ghetto blaster, the conscience brother who wanted nothing but to be alone and live in the loud space of his radio. A young, black, beautiful man who died in the hands of blue fear and white fury. People walked across the street when Radio Raheem came down the block. The starch in his frame scared them away from the gap in his smile. The 4-fingered rings, where we're seen like brass knuckles, when if you stopped him, like Mookie did as the sun set on that hot summer BK Brooklyn day, you would see Raheem's hand, like his mind, were worth its weight in gold." The master actor who played Radio Raheem, Bill Nunn, passed away recently at the age of 62. And although he's no longer here with us physically, the magic that he left with us, his art, will be with us forever. And I want to take the time to share a clip of the master actor, Bill Nunn.
That's right.
Where we headed? Slice. You going down the south? Where? I gotta make some deliveries and I'll check you back there, right? Delivery back. Alright. Oh shit! Let me check it out. That's the hype!
Newest latest. Let me tell you the story of right hand and left hand. It's a tale of good and evil. Hey! It was with this hand that Cain iced his brother. Love. These 5 fingers, they go straight to the soul of man. The right hand, the hand of love. The story of life is this. Static. One hand is always fighting the other hand. And the left hand is kicking much ass. I mean, it looks like the right hand love is finished. But hold on, stop the presses, the right hand's coming back. Yeah, he got the left hand on the ropes now, that's right. Yeah, ooh, it's a devastating right hand. Haters hurt, he's down. Ooh, left hand hate, KO'd by love. If I love you, I love you. But if I hate you,
Here it is, love and hate.
I love you.
Read Raheem, check the latest. Peace.
And we will forever love Bill Nunn. And I want to take a moment of silence for Bill Nunn. Thank you.
we'll get back to the questions.
I think I need a mic. Oh, I have the mic. I got the mic.
Yeah.
Spike, my heart is just really full of so much appreciation. I just want to thank you again for this work and for asking me to be a part of it. I have so many questions in my head, but the one that I'd like to ask you is your work, and I'm going to speak personally, but I know for many, has always mattered. And the work that you have chosen to share with us through your movies, you reflect the ills of society and you push us to want to make change. I would just love to know your thought process. What was the catalytic moment? What was the moment that pushed you to know that you had to make this film, Two Fists Up?
Well, I love sports, and that I wanted to find out what happened, what really happened at the zoo. So I had to just go there and find out, and got to ask the right people, and they point in the right direction. So I really want to get to the truth about what happened, how it started. And as they said, many people said in the piece, many of those students from the black students from the zoo, half from Chicago, half from St. Louis. St. Louis is Ferguson, so they were part of the uprising in Ferguson, and what they got there, they took back to campus. And the zoo is a long, long history of being a very racist school. I mean, you can find it everywhere, but there's different degrees. And in the zoo, they're just blatant. So that was just want to find out what happened.
Thank you. I also have a question, and I'm actually, I love your wardrobe choice tonight, because one of the questions that I have is regarding, everything that's going on with Colin Kaepernick's protest during the national anthem, as well as, other sports athletes have taken a stand. LeBron James recently, Michael Jordan has taken a stand. I wanted to ask you, a lot of the critics are telling us that, these athletes are here to play and not take a stand on these social issues. So what would you say to somebody who believes there should be a kind of a distance between, a separation between sports and state?
I think that history has shown that is not the case. We had photographs in this piece of John Carlos and Tommy Smith raising the black gloved fist in the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City. Jackie Robinson, and we go on and on and on. Then known as Lowell Cinder, he chose not to play in the 68 Olympics. So there's many people throughout history who have, Arthur Ashe, Billie Jean King, people who stood up and for their beliefs. The thing about football is that football, the professional sports, is one of those sports where your contract is not guaranteed. So that you see every Sunday more fellas doing it, because they're like, I'm not gonna get cut. And also, as I spoke to Colin Kaepernick, and he understands that not everybody is in the place he is, and they got family, they got to eat. And so he understands. So he's never asked everybody to do it. He said, "I'm doing this," and he understood that if a guy is a backup, very low on the depth chart, they can cut your ass. Football, there's no guaranteed contract. You're not in the street. I think that it's not going backwards. Every Sunday, more athletes stepping forward. And Monday was the opening of the NBA team's training camps. And so a lot of people are looking to see what the players do, because of all African American athletes, basketball are the most, who they are. And they have guaranteed contracts. So we're going to see what they're going to do in the very interesting scenario. One of the biggest games of the year is coming up. Season opener. It's going to be in the national game is going to be in Cleveland, where the Cleveland Cavaliers will receive their championship rings. They shouldn't have won, but anyway. First, man, I was hurt. I'm still hurt. That's the first time in NBA history finals that a team down 3-1 came back to win. And a certain player on Golden State that made that possible, but I won't name his name. But anyway, the season opener, the Cavaliers, LeBron James and company will receive their rings. And the team they're playing are the orange and blue, the New York Knickerbockers. It's very interesting, you know, what's going to happen that night. So I don't know. I'll be looking. You know, what's going to happen when national anthem? The thing I never knew about that third stanza in national anthem, where it's really celebrating the murder of slaves, slaves who had, you might say, defected to the British in the War of 1812. And it's funny how they tried to turn this around and make it seem like what Powell was doing to other people, like it was disrespect to the veterans. And the veterans came out and said, and that squashed that shit right away. So, you know, people getting woke. And I think that this was a great example of this film, because forget about playing NFL. In college, that's really a plantation. So they could have cut, take away your scholarship in a minute. And they got together, so we're not going to let our brother starve to death. So there's always been great examples of this within our history, of us people who are ancestors, who are slaves from ancestors. I mean, there's many stuff that we don't even know about. There's lost history, but we've always made brave decisions that could affect one's life. And for me, one of the greatest ones is that there was a time the United States of America was against the law for slaves to read and write. But our ancestors had the knowledge, the understanding, the wisdom, and the vision knew that education was one of the ways for us to get out of bondage. And so our ancestors risked their life because if Mazza caught you reading or writing, three things could happen. You could be whipped, castrated, or hung. If Mazza's having a bad day, it'll be all three. But despite that, you know, our ancestors risked their life to teach how to read and write. And so then you fast forward 246 years. Well, that's not an exact math, but half of young black men don't even graduate high school today. So, you know, there's a lot of work that still has to be done. Thank you.
We would like to take about 10 minutes, if we can just have a time check. And we'd like to open it up to all of you. For those of you who are able to answer, to ask a question, I definitely want to take one or two, at least from the top.
Cheap seats. I was there. The last row of Mass Square Garden. Blue seats. Student government card. SGA, Student Government Association.
Two from the top and two from the bottom. One over here. And Maurice. And is there another one upstairs?
Joe Scotty.
Okay, so we have two up there. Let's start with you, Maurice. Is there a microphone upstairs, please?
Oh, we got one down here.
Nah, you gotta talk loud. Come on.
Please.
So during the film, we discussed the importance of having our presence as Black scholars respected.
Whoa.
I think we need a mic.
You got to slow down and speak louder.
He's coming with the mic right now. You want to start with somebody down here first?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I have a
Maurice, don't
question.
lose your train of thought. So let's have one down here with the microphone.
Right here?
There's one.
Yeah, right here?
Where's the person upstairs?
Right here?
Over here. Someone has the mic in your hand. If you have the mic
Oh,
in your
man.
hand, go ahead and speak.
All right, go ahead.
Okay.
Right here? Where? Me?
During the film, we
I was gonna
discussed
get
the
up.
importance of having our presence as Black scholars respected in often hostile spaces. We discussed how Black bodies generate millions of dollars for hostile systems in what's described as a new plantation. With all of these issues in front of us, I would like to know your thoughts as a Morehouse man on the role of America's 107 Black colleges in this fight for safe spaces and educational equity.
Well, I'm a graduate of Morehouse, illustrious class of 1979. My father went to Morehouse, my grandfather went to Morehouse, my mother and grandmother went to Spelman. Spellhouse, where you at? Stand up, Spelman. Where you at, Spelman? There you go. There's a house in here? Where's the house?
That's right. Whoop!
Here's the thing. And this is 100. Is that there's still a definite need for historic Black colleges.
That's right.
But there's only a certain amount of young Black men who have a certain score in the SAT. And these young Black men, many come from very poor backgrounds, probably a lot of them first of their families to go to college. And so when a Morehouse, or Howard, Hampton, Tuskegee cannot give them a full 4-year ride, they get snapped up by Harvard, Columbia, Stanford. I mean, and you can't blame them. They just can't afford to go to more. And so the president of the college, John Wilson, we used him in my same class, also Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, we were all in the same class, 79, and Martin Luther King III. And so we just have to build a financial status, so we'll have the money to cultivate these minds on a Black campus, because I just think that there's something being on a campus where your teachers look like you, the administration, faculty, and they have a definite stake in your development, not only as a student, but as a human being. There's a teacher, and when I went to Morehouse, I was a mass communications major. And so I was able to take my major at Clark College. There was someone here from Clark. Where are you at? Stand up. Let's see you go ahead. And there's a teacher there who's still there today. His name is Professor Herb Eichelberger. You know, Dr. Ike? He was the one that encouraged me to be a filmmaker. He had the key to the film lab, and he would stay 2 or 3 times a week, an extra 3 or 4 hours so I could edit my film. And he wasn't getting paid overtime either. But he saw something in me, and encouraged me, and pushed me. And I don't think that'll happen anywhere else. So there are many, everybody's example of, a teacher, that went the extra mile. That's what great teachers do. So, I'm always going to be a Morehouse man, and we just got to work hard to get the financial stability to these institutions, because a lot of these schools, especially at the Black state schools, they're trying to merge them with the others. So, they're systematically trying to get rid of these schools and trying to say they're obsolete, which we know that is not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Who has the mic on the lower level? Right here.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Juana. I'm from the Revolution Club. We come to a lot of your screenings, as you can remember us. First of all, I really wanna, tell you that I appreciate so much this film, because it doesn't just, exposes the ugly history of this country, as a lot of the activists that were involved in that were bringing up, the ugly history that we have to confront, the slavery, Jim Crow, the new Jim Crow. But it actually shows how the possibility for change doesn't sit in the current conditions, in the actual conditions of society at any given point, and that very few individuals, so very few people can actually make a big change and can shake up a whole, the whole way that people are thinking in a whole country or in the world, right? So first than anything, I want to appreciate this film a lot, and thank you so much for having done it. And then my question is focus on, you have worked during a lot of years working on these social issues and then bringing up and then exposing a lot of things. And I wonder, if up to this point, you have come to a conclusion or an understanding of what needs to be done to actually transform from the very basics the situation and the multiple issues that are Black people facing, immigrants facing, the issues that this country has in their various foundation. And with that, I just want to resonate a lot with the woman that said that we actually need to dismantle America, because racism and white supremacy is...
There goes your answer right there.
And I just want to add one more thing that, as a revolutionary that I am, I came to the understanding that actually, all of these courageous movements and very courageous uprisings and disruptions, they need, they're very valuable, and they transform and shape the understanding of things in the world. But also, it needs to become. It needs to transform into revolutionary understanding on how the world works and how can it actually change. And by that I just want to say, anyone who wants to talk to me, we have a plan, we have a strategy, you have to get into it.
Where's the mic upstairs?
Slide through here real quick.
Right here. Yeah. Here. Raise your hand, Joe Scotty. That was her.
I'm an educator right now, and I teach at an all-boys school with 94% Black students. And I'm just torn between following the curriculum and just doing my job as a teacher and not knowing my role when my second graders have no idea about what's happening. So I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on what the role as a teacher should be in exposing children to, basically to what is happening.
What grade do you teach?
Second grade, and I taught kindergarten last year, and I asked them, do you know what's happening? And they said, oh, the trash cans are burning in the street. And I asked them, do you know what's happening with people who are dying? And they said, army men. So they had no idea.
Where do you teach at? Borough.
In Bed-Stuy.
Do or die?
With this population of all Black boy students, I just thought it was shocking to me that they didn't know what was happening.
They're babies.
So I'm just wondering, as a teacher, what should be my role?
First goal, you gotta teach them how to read. How to read. Systematically, we're below the average reading level, and also it's even harder to make them want to read, make them want to enjoy reading, explaining how important it is to read.
I'll keep doing it. I think that might be it, right?
Down here?
Right here, right here, right here. Right, there's no mic. Oh, she got the mic. I don't need a mic.
Yes.
She got the mic.
Thank you for bringing the film here. I really appreciate it. And I really love how you started the film with Ferguson and even with things that happened before Ferguson and sort of showing outside and how those things affect the university. So another fight that also has been going on is the fight for 15. And what I was curious about is in the film, there was a point where Jonathan Butler mentioned students, staff, and faculty. And what I'm curious about is if the climate is as bad, and we know it's as bad as they were describing, then I'm sure staff were also going through things as well. And did you hear what in your interviews with students, how they created solidarity across the different groups on campus, especially people who are working on campus, and how they connected with people across those lines? Because I love how you made an effort to show that the struggles outside the university are penetrating the university and it's not an oasis.
Well, I think there's this misnomer to think that university colleges are just some oasis in Nunn. Southern California, USC, that's great output. So, even though you might want to have more security or more fences, whatever, you're still in the world. And I think that's a good thing, that no one should walk around thinking I'm in some utopia and what's happening in the world should not affect me because I'm pursuing my higher learning or whatever the fuck you're doing. Sorry, now you're doing it. Oh.
We'll talk about it later.
Unless she was in utopia, she's heard that word before. But, I mean, and I think it's great where students realize that you walk across the street, it's not Columbia anymore. You know, and people are dealing, trying to get by. That's the answer to that. Up top.
Where's the mic? Where's the mic?
No, you gotta come down front. Don't jump.
Peace, big brother.
Hello.
Right? I'm sure you've heard of the Killer Mike campaign to get black people to put their money in black banks. Could we press upon you to create a campaign for celebs to invest in the community as far as like supermarkets and discount stores and gas stations and the whole like of that? Because everybody's calling for a boycott. Well, we don't have any money anywhere to boycott to. We don't have any place to put our money into. I mean, all we basically can do is maybe not eat at the white restaurants, the Mexican restaurants, and what have you. But that's about it. When I have to buy towels, water, and bread, you know, I have to go to the regular supermarket where none of us are working and none of us are getting any benefit from. So I never understood. Like, I've been in this movement for a long time. I'm an old head. I was actually born into the movement. Why none of the black people of means ever opened up business in the black community, basic businesses.
Well, that's a blanket statement. First of all, Magic Johnson owned a bunch of Starbucks. I mean, he managed movie theaters, so you just can't make a blanket statement.
The basics. Like, we get granted, but I'm talking about the basics. The majority of our dollar is spent in places like the supermarkets and the gas station.
No, the majority of money is spent in entertainment.
Okay, well, so then we would all go to Magic Johnson Theater. We want to go to the movies. But if I want to buy water and bread, I still have to go to the regular place. If we talking about boycott, we talking about everything, right?
You have to be very strategic when you talk about a boycott. For example, Black Friday in Chicago, Miracle Mile, North Michigan, they lost like millions of dollars. And that had a direct effect. So, another thing was that there were no superstars or celebrities that had then President Tim Wolf get fired.
Yes,
University of Missouri. Those were students. So I think that a lot of times you go down the wrong track when you put expectations on people of color who might not want to do that. You know, it's not going to be an athlete or entertainer that's going to lead us to the promised land. You know, it's going to be the people. I think that's one of the most powerful things about this, is that University of Missouri is a big time, they're an SEC. College sports is a $1 billion industry. And the athletes don't get, I'm not going to curse. So to have young, intelligent, led by black women who get together, have everything to lose, put all on the line, and they get this guy fired. That's strategic. They had 3 or 4 more games left. So that game they're going to forfeit against Brigham Young was going to be the first one. So I don't care what the president said. I don't care how many billions they got. No one wants to write $1 million check. And there's like 3 or 4 games left. And another thing, though, they were scared. The longer this got on, who knows if this can't happen in some other schools. So they had, you know, it wasn't just Missouri. I bet they were getting calls from other schools like, yo, especially NC2A who were pimps. They gotta squash us right now. You know, we got it's an uprising over here. So I just think we have to be strategic and not just say this athlete, this entertainer is going to be the one that's going to lead us. Just because you can sing, dunk, run, doesn't necessarily mean that you have the capabilities,
Talk about it.
or the knowledge, or the training to do something else. That's not your skill set.
One more question, and then we'd like to ask Ms. Toledo.
Who did she give the remote to? Oh, man.
Should be on the
No, they're not.
Can you hear me? Okay. I first wanted to say that I really appreciate this film, mostly because, speaking for myself, when you see activism and things like this happening, there's never really a time where you see a happy ending, generally. So I felt like that was really important, just kind of like as a pick-me-up, because we don't really get that as often as we should. But my question is, what do you think, as a person of color, what can we do to kind of avoid desensitization of what's happening right now, currently?
Good question.
What do we do to avoid what?
Desensitization to what's happening now, to the shootings and.
Oh, because it's too much and it's like another one's
Yes.
lose count?
There's a lot of people I know just off of social media that when something like this happens, they kind of just it's not necessarily that they don't feel like what's happening is important, but they just can't feel anymore.
Well, number one, I understand that because it's human nature to be, and you something keeps throwing at you, you become desensitized. But the way to combat that is think about that was your mother, that was your brother, that was your father, that was your cousin, that was your aunt who was shot down the street like a dog. Think about the families that are grieving. They're not desensitized. They gotta bury their loved ones. They have to live the rest of their lives knowing that their loved one's life was snuffed out. So you have to put yourself in their shoes. You have to be unselfish and think about not you, but the families who are gonna go in their own graves with a great big hole in their heart because one of their loved ones is not here anymore. And then knowing that in one case, one cop who strangled, there's more than one, but strangled Eric Gardner, he received what, $100,000 overtime at the desk job. I also like to say, if you say about the visionary, I did not make that up. Do the Right Thing came out in 1988. No, 89. The NYPD chokehold Ray Rahim was based on Michael Stewart, who was a graffiti artist, who was spray painting at Union Square, like small as me. Bunch of cops jumped on him and choked him to death. So I didn't make that up. It was based upon what happened. But still, it was a shock to see almost the same exact thing in the film happened to Eric Gardner. In fact, when it came out, I put something up on my social media where we cut back and forth between the film and then the real life strangulation of Eric Gardner. That was the summation right there.
Before Jolene comes, Pat, I just want to offer if you'd like to say any last words or comments, and Spike, we would just love for you to leave a lasting message to us. As you know, there are clinicians in the audience, there are teachers in training, there are
do the right thing.
That's right. That's it. That's it.
Set that up.
That's
that
it.
was a big, fat, juicy
That's
one.
it. Woo!
Gary Sanchez.
That's right. It's out
of here.
Spike, man, you know, we truly appreciate having you here. I think that, you know, the efforts that we have, you know, along this process of, you know, the fight for our liberation and proper representation, it can get tiring, it can be traumatic, right? And along the way, if we don't practice self-care and we don't, you know, think about ourselves and have communities like these to come into and feel the energy in these spaces, you know, it can be a very tough struggle. And I think that, you know, having you come to campus, having you in this room right now is refueling us in more ways than you know we know right now.
Yeah.